The second installment of Ask Steve is here, and we're going to start out today answering the burning question, the big one that we're getting from a lot of people over these last couple of weeks. We're going to talk about the difference between the Fed's raising interest rates, the mortgage interest rates going down. They're happening at the same time. How can that happen? We're going to tell you about it. This is Steve with the Malone Realty Group, EXP, in Atlanta. All right, we got 4 things to talk about today. Everything from interest rates to timing the market to our Airbnb that we have up in Talking Rock, all the way to, you know what, we're going to talk some backyard grilling too. Because I said, yeah, ask me anything. I got something to ask about backyard grilling, so we're going to do that too. So here you go. 4 big questions. We're going to knock them all out. We're going to try to keep it fast paced, try not to get bogged down in the weeds. If you want me to go deeper, we can go deeper on a longer YouTube. You let me know in the comments. But we're going to answer these questions super fast, and here we go. The first question we're getting from a lot of different people right now. We're recording this the beginning part of February. The Feds just raised the Fed rate a quarter of a point earlier this week. The same day that they raised that interest rate up, the mortgage rates actually went way down. People are like, well, what's up with that? I just saw the interest rates went up. Well, the Fed rate went up, mortgage rates went down. How can that happen? Well, again, I'm not going to get bogged down in the weeds here. Not an economist, but here's really kind of like the 30,000-foot view, and we can drill down more if we want to. 30,000-foot view is the Feds are raising their interest rate, the Fed funds rate, which is the rate that banks lend money to each other, and they continue to raise it up. The goal in them raising it up is to slow down the economy, to make everything kind of come a little bit back, slow things down to keep inflation in check. Okay, they made some major moves last year, raising the rate 3/4 of a point several times last year. This is only 1/4 of a point, but it was a raise in the interest rates. So everybody sees that and they think, oh, the mortgage rates are going up. The mortgage rates are really more tied to kind of the bond market than the Fed funds rate. But there is a way that they kind of run together. The Fed funds rate, again, what they're doing with that is they're trying to curb inflation. As long as everything looks like inflation is coming under control and heading in the right direction, the mortgage rates are going to respond by actually heading back down. Mortgage rates, it really over time and over history, if you look at it, mortgage rates are really tied to inflation more than they are tied to the Fed funds rate. During the 80s, when inflation was super crazy, the mortgage rates were super crazy. Okay, that's when the mortgage rates were over 10% for all those years. The mortgage rates got up to the mid-7s, but once it looked like we were kind of over the top of inflation mountain, and it looks like inflation was coming back down, that's when all the markets started to relax, bond markets started to relax, and the mortgage rates actually started coming down. So the mortgage rates are going to continue to come down. They're also tied to what they think is going to happen in the market. So if everybody looks forward and you look forward and you expect that the Feds are going to raise the rates 1/4 of a point, the mortgage rates and everybody that sets the mortgage rates and the bond markets and whatever, they expect the Feds to come out and say 1/4 of a point. So when they say 1/4 of a point, it doesn't change anything. It's exactly what they expected. If they'd gone a 1/2 point, then I think mortgage rates would have gone up too. But because everything happened the way it was supposed to happen, that's why the mortgage rates actually came down. The other thing that people watch when they raise the Fed funds rate is what Chairman Powell says. It's not necessarily what they do, but it's what he says. When he comes out, he kind of shoots from the hip in front of the reporters, kind of sees where we are. And I don't think really anything surprised anybody this time. I think everybody realizes we have work left to do to get inflation under control. One of the big things is, believe it or not, unemployment is too low. And the jobs report that came out today was actually pretty amazing on how many jobs were added, and the unemployment rate went down. That's not what the Fed wants to hear. The Fed wants to have that unemployment rate somewhere around 5%. That's indicative of a balanced, healthy economy. You obviously don't want to be 10%, but 3%, especially in the inflationary kind of era that we're in right now, is probably too low. You want it to be around 5%. Again, don't shoot the messenger. That's just the thought process. That's what's up. So, I think that there's an outside chance that everybody might see that today. And even though that there are more jobs being added, the mortgage rates at the end of the day may go up a little bit because they might see that, think the Feds are going to get spooked by that, and then the Feds may, freak out and raise rates higher, all that stuff. Anyway, so momentarily you might see the mortgage rates kind of pop up a little bit, but they're going to hold in the upper fives to low sixes for at least the foreseeable future. Again, just to recap, mortgage rates are really tied more to the bond market and to inflation than they are to the Fed funds rate. So the Fed funds rate is used to curb inflation. It's curbing inflation. Inflation is a little more under control, and because of that, mortgage rates are starting to trickle down. Looking long term, I don't think they're going to end up, appreciably lower than the low fives to upper fours. I think that's where we're going to settle, and we're going to be somewhere in the upper fours, low fives, through the fives, and meander in there. That's where a healthy mortgage rate should be. That's what we expect. But anyway, that answers the question that a lot of people are asking. If the Feds raise the rates, how do the mortgage rates go down? That's why, because they're kind of connected, but they're not directly connected. So the one can go up, the other one can go down, and that's why. Question number 2, Larry Legend reached out to me on Instagram. Put the blurb out there saying, hey, I need your questions. Give me some questions. He sent a question. He said, what's the best metric, the best data point that you use to figure out the strength of the market and to figure out what the market's doing right now? And to that, I would say this too could be a 50-minute YouTube video. We're going to try and make this a 5-minute answer. The real answer for that is there's a lot of data points, number one. Number two, the market is different depending on who you are in the market looking at it. Realtors look at it one way, buyers looking at it one way, sellers look at it one way. Think about this, the last 6 months when there were really not a lot of homes selling and sellers were going way down on price. They were giving away a lot of concessions to get their houses sold. Sellers did not like that market. They thought it was a stinky market. Buyers kind of liked the market. They were getting deals. And realtors, they didn't really like the market just because there wasn't a lot of volume. There wasn't a lot of stuff to do, a lot of people to help, things like that. So a lot of realtors actually got out of the business altogether. But in a market like we saw back in spring of last year, where you had like 500 offers on every house, that's a great market for sellers. It's a great market for realtors. It's a terrible market for buyers. So depending on who you are in the transaction and where you are is really kind of dictating, the strength of the market right now. So I say that to say these answers could be different for all those people. That's number one. Number two, there's a lot of things that we look at. One of the things I like to look at is pending sales year over year. What do I mean by pending sales? What do I mean by year over year? So pending sales is how many, like last month, how many deals went under contract, okay? The year over year part is how is that compared to the same time last year? It may not be the same, or comparing it to last month. Last month's different. There's a cycle every year. There's an up and down every year. We're crazy in the spring, not so crazy in the beginning of fall. Then we're crazy in the fall to early winter. Then we're really quiet from winter through early part of spring. It's an up and down, okay? So what we do in, let's say, June and May is not the same as what we do in July and August, okay? So you could have a pretty crappy June historically and compare that to what was a pretty great August historically, and you're going to have more homes sold in June than you will August, just because it's higher in the cycle. It's just the way that it is. But that being said, we'll look at pendings and we'll look at year over year. And sometimes you look at quarter over quarter to get kind of a more broad idea of what's going on. That just gives you an idea of how are we doing as far as getting homes under contract. That means how many homes are out there, how many buyers are looking, how many people are getting pre-approved, how many people go through the cycle, all that stuff. Looking at that. Looking at the number of new listings that get added, that's a pretty good indicator of, how much stuff is getting replenished going along with all those pendings. Because if you have a bunch of pendings, a bunch of deals going under contract, and you don't have a lot of new listings, all of a sudden you're getting into a much more of a seller's market because you don't have a lot of homes out there, right? One of the other things we like to look at is months supply. And we talk about this on our videos all the time. Month supply. If we sold everything in the market and didn't add anything else, we sold everything that we have at the pace that everything is selling, How long would it take to sell everything? How long that would take, that's called months of supply, okay? Anything under 5 is considered a seller's market. Anything over like 7 is a buyer's market, and 5 to 7 is kind of a neutral market, right? And so under 5 is a seller's market, under 3 is a pretty strong seller's market, under 2 is like bananas seller's market, which is where we were last year, the beginning part of the year. Right now we're sitting at 2 months, so it's a pretty strong seller's market in theory. That's an indicator too of just who has more of a hand in what's going on. But like I said, I mean, this could be again a 50-minute YouTube video. There are so many little intricacies, so many little things that go on. I mean, the interest rates have a big play on what's going on. You saw what happened back in June. The interest rates were in the 5s. In basically 1 week, they went from the low 5s, I believe, all the way into the low 6s. That was it. So if you looked at the beginning of that week, market's not doing too bad. And we're in like the middle of June, summertime season, everything was going great. And all of a sudden, like that, it was over. So any of the other markers that we looked at were fine. Everything was good. We saw things slowing down a little bit, but we're coming out of the pandemic market. Things are still going okay. And then once those rates hit above 6, that was it. Starting middle of June through basically the middle of December, it was a ghost town in the Atlanta metro area real estate market. Okay, so that's just watching the interest rates. So to me, if I'm looking at it, I'm looking at all, and I do these monthly updates, and I just did one for January into February. We look at the pending sales. We look at how many new listings, months of inventory. One of the other things we like to look at is the number of buyers per listing. We're starting to see buyers per listing go up. If the number of buyers per listing is around 5, or not buyers per listing, but showings per listing, that number is like around 5. Like nobody's out there looking at listings. Right now it's up there between 15 and 20 right now, coming out of January. Buyers are out looking at houses right now. That's a good indicator that things are starting to pick up a little bit. So that's another thing that we watch. So there's all those little ones that we watch. The big ones to me, if I had to pick the biggest ones to watch, pending sales, months of inventory, and probably the buyer traffic. Those are the big 3 that I watch. And you'll know if you've got buyer traffic, if you've got a decent number of pending sales coming out of last month, and you've got a low months of supply, it's a pretty strong seller's market and things are rocking and rolling. Okay? And that's what we typically get in spring. That's what we're setting up for this spring. So that's what we look for. Larry, good question. Number 3 question that we got, what do the numbers look like on our Airbnb? Are we happy that we bought it? It's a good question. As I talked about in the video that we just posted, and I'll put the link down below, talking about our Airbnb, the good, bad, and the ugly, and kind of so pissed off about it at the time that I went backwards. I said the ugly, the bad, and the good. So we start with the ugly. So 6 months in, because we bought at the end of July, it's beginning of February, so about 6 months. So 6 months in, are we happy that we bought it? Yes. Is it uglier than we thought it was going to be? Yes. But 6 months in, it's a learning experience, number 1. Number 2, for the first 4 or 5 months, we were very close to breaking even. We were losing a little bit of money every month, is what it is. But that's from when you consider all the rent, trying to pay all the bills. So we end up with a little bit that we have to carry. And then December was a really slow month. It was kind of a weird month. We had a water leak in the place. We had to fix it. We missed out on some things because of the cold and because of whatever. Then we had a major water leak in the place at the beginning part of January that we found that we're still kind of getting the ball rolling on fixing it and finishing it up and all those things. So that's really kept us very empty there. So we haven't had a lot of people up there. So January is just a complete dumpster fire when we look at the numbers. We're going to pretend January just didn't even happen. It just didn't happen. So I say all that to say it was not the giant cash cow that we were hoping it would be. We knew that was a likelihood. It is what it is. Now, looking back on it, 6 months ago, what would we have done different? There's a lot of things we would have done different, and I think that if we had done them differently, we would have done a much better job of breaking even making some money, cash flowing a little bit better. I assumed that a lot of things were going to just run themselves and we wouldn't have to worry about it. It is not a passive thing owning an Airbnb. It's not a 40-hour-a-week job, but it's not passive. Passive is something I don't have to worry about. It'll just work itself out. It's not. It's not passive at all. I've been taking classes learning how to keep up with the algorithm, because Airbnb keeps changing the algorithm, so you got to keep on top of that. Learn how to do pricing to where you maximize things on the pricing end of it. What kind of pictures do we get? All this stuff. We did a lot of learning going into it. We got into it, and then I pulled back a little bit. Unfortunately, we got to keep the pedal going, or pedal the metal. Got to keep rocking and rolling. So again, it's not as passive as we want it to be. Not making the money we want it to be. But that being said, where are we right now? It's turned into an insurance claim. We're getting things fixed. We're hoping to be back on the market middle part of February, maybe late part of February. Once it does, it's going to be a pretty nice looking place with all the updates that we're going to be doing. And we've taken all these classes to really learn how to maximize. We're coming into spring and summer, which is typically a very busy season. We are expecting to really start cash flowing this a little bit more as we head into the summertime. My goal is, and I don't know if it's crazy or not, but my goal is to cash flow it enough to where the pluses that we get over these next couple of months negate all the minuses we had, and we just break even the first year. If we can just break even the first year, that would be great. Now, the thing to keep in mind, we bought this place, and it has gone up in value, okay, because we got it for cheap enough, because we bought it when everything was downturning. I was on here all the time saying, this is the time to buy the house, this is the time to buy the house. People are giving stuff away, buy the house, buy the house. And I said, crap, I'm doing it. I'm buying the house. I'm going to listen to my own advice. So we got it for very cheap compared to where they had it. So we got it at a really good deal, got a lot of equity in it already, and it has gone up in value since we bought it. So even though we're going to, let's say we break even, there's still the point that the house went up in value, probably gone up in value 4 to 5% already above where we bought it at. And it's been a half year because we bought it for so low. So, there's the likelihood that maybe at the end of the year one, it's up 8 to 10%. And then it goes 4 to 5% every year past that. That's where the money's made. Okay? If we can get carrying costs to be negated, that's just gravy on top of it. But the whole point is, and then there's also tax advantages. We're in the middle of doing our taxes right now with our CPA, so he knows more than I do as far as what the tax advantages are going to be of this. But the holding and renting of real estate, that's where the money's made. Get it for cheap, hold it, tax advantages, sell it down the road at a higher price. That's the big deal. And if we can cash flow off of that, that's great. That would be the icing on the cake. But if we can get the rent at least paid for it, that'd be great too. But we're using this to kind of begin building our portfolio of rentals going forward. So, what are the numbers looking like? The first 6 months are not as pretty as I wanted to be. I'll be just blatantly honest with you. One of the reasons why is, we probably leveraged too much. Didn't put as much cash down as we should have. We leveraged too much because we used equity from our main house. And I know that's not, a popular thing to do or a smart thing to do, according to some people. For us, the equity's there. Let's just use it. It doesn't. I did a whole video on that too. So not going to beat it up. We're already over time on this one. So would I do it over again? Yes. It's been a learning experience. I've learned a lot in the last 6 months. My wife has learned a lot in the last 6 months. One of the big things we've learned is patience. That's one of the things. But I think that we're going to be more effective going forward based on what we've learned. We would not have learned everything. We would always have wondered if we hadn't jumped. And I think that in 3 or 4 years, we're going to look back and say, thank God we did this. Right now, it's not a smart play. But as I say all the time in our videos, real estate's not a 4-month, 5-month investment. This is a long-term deal. You got to be in it for a couple of years. If you're in it for a couple of years, you're in it for 4 to 5 years, it's going to pay off. For that reason, I'm glad we made the decision. I would do it again. We're going to wrap this Ask Steve up with something near and dear to my heart. My man Stacy Wyatt, he texted me a couple weeks ago and says, I got a Blackstone, Big Daddy. Talk to me about it. What do I need to do? And that's like my love language. I've got a Blackstone, and I've got a Weber Smoky Mountain smoker in the backyard. So, got the smoker, got the Blackstone, which is the griddle top grill, if you've never seen one before. Love my Blackstone. I love both of them, but Blackstone's the one we obviously use a little bit more because we can cook breakfast on it, lunch on it, dinner on it. Again, this is backyard barbecue stuff. You want to listen to this, and you want to just listen to real estate, you can just stop here. But if you want to hear about food, this is what we're going to talk about. So he texts me, or he messages me, Stacy Wyatt, what is your favorite food to cook on the Blackstone? So we do all kinds of cool stuff. Love smash burgers. The family loves smash burgers. I'm gonna put links down below of some videos. One of them is a video I did of making smash burgers. The other ones I want you to watch are the Walt twins, they're the Blackstone gurus. Now they don't use a Blackstone, they use another brand because they got sponsored by them or whatever. But still, I watch them because they're cooking on a griddle. Anyway, the smash burgers are a hit, and chicken fried rice is probably my favorite thing I make. The reason why is because it's my wife's favorite thing. And anytime I make chicken fried rice for her, like, I'm a superhero. And I don't know how many of y'all are married. I need all the points I can get. All right. So chicken fried rice, watch their videos on how to make them. The things I will say is be sure you cook the rice the day before and put it in the fridge. Let it cool, because if it's too warm, there's moisture in it and it's going to stick to the griddle, and you don't want that. The other thing is you want to brown the onion before you put it in with all the vegetables. And just, I like to be very liberal on, we use the soy protein stuff as the flavoring, and it's really, really good. Be liberal with that. I don't think you can overdo it. Well, you can, but you got to work hard for it. So, but I would say learn how to do that. No, it's going to take a minute. And when I do chicken fried rice, it takes a good 45 minutes or so to go through cooking the rice, moving the rice, cooking the vegetables, cooking the onions, move it all over. You can cook eggs in there too to mix in with the rice. We don't, just because we have some egg allergies. And then you got to cook the chicken. Be sure the chicken's fully cooked. Then you marry everything together, whatever. It's like a little bit of performance art, and I like that. But again, it's my wife's favorite thing I make, and I need all the points I can get. But some of the other things that I like to make, we did some shrimp tacos at one time, which were just stupid good. So get yourself a little taco holder, like a Blackstone taco holder. It sits right on the grill. You cook everything up and just bloop, 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 and make the tacos like that. Anything you make on there, the cool thing I love about, like, we grilled chicken on there, because it's a flat surface and there's not the slats in it like you have in a grill to let the flames go through. It's like it's a griddle. Any kind of juice that comes out of the chicken, it just sits right there. Or that comes out of the burger, it just sits right there. Nothing dries out. Everything is perfectly cooked. Anyway, so my favorite thing to make on there is chicken fried rice. There you go. And I'm going to put the links below, and we'll have more tips and tricks. And maybe at some point, like I said, I put the video down there for me doing smash burgers. But sometime I got to make a video of smoking some pork, some pulled pork in the Weber Smoky Mountain, man. That's the stuff right there. So if you get Blackstone, great. Weber Smoky Mountain, that's the combo. Your family will love you. They'll think you're a superhero. All right, there you go. 4 questions. We talked a little bit about interest rates. We talked a little bit about the market. We talked a little bit about Airbnb. And now I'm hungry. Now I'm going to go make some chicken fried rice. So there you go. If you ever have any questions, you let me know. It's the next episode of Ask Steve. We may do it about a month and a half or so. So if you have any questions, you can either hit me up on Instagram. Look me up, Steve Malone Realtor, Malone, Milone. Look me up there. On Facebook, you can leave your questions below. All that good stuff. This is Steve with the Malone Realty Group at EXP. Take care. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching the video today. If you want more information on what's going on in the real estate market, take a look at some of these videos over here that we've posted, keeping up with what buying, selling, things that are going on in the North Georgia market. But if you want to keep up with everything that we post to our YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel down there, bottom right. That way you won't miss out on anything.